fellow riders. Today we're going to talk about the greatest all-purpose motorcycle ever made, Suzuki DR650. But you knew that. Now, the reason for this video is I'm going to go over some of the modifications that I've done over the last many years riding this bike, and to help out some of the folks that are going to buy one, whether it's used or new, and they wonder, what's the first thing I should do? What's the second? What's the third, fourth, fifth modification I should be looking at doing for this bike? So I've done so many things with this over the years, and I do have, of course, experience with that. So what we're going to do, walk through the bike, and I'll list in order of importance to me. You know, it's all subjective, but what I think are the most important things to do, number one, number two, number three, down the line, what I've done with the bike, how much it's cost me, and how I would do it different, if at all, if I did it again. So come on in here, get closer, let's take a look. Okay, so now you've got your brand new or used or whatever DR650. What's the first thing you're gonna do? First thing that I did was this. I noticed when I was riding it, I'd go, you know, pretty good sized trips, 50 or 100 yards, and my butt would be killing me with the factory seat. They're terrible. I tried messing around with some things. I pulled the seat cover off, I put some different foam in there, and you know, nothing really worked. And one day I noticed Sargent was gonna start making seats for these. I got on their waiting list for their very first batch, and I got me one. And this is so comfortable. It is so much different. I've done 500-mile days on this bike, and perfectly happy with it. Today, Sargent makes this seat still. I highly recommend it. Also, you can go to ProCycle or Seat Concepts. They'll sell you a seat cover with foam. Use your factory pan. It's pretty inexpensive that way in that world. And you can put it together yourself, and you got a good seat. So that is highly important. Very first thing, if this bike was gone, I bought another one brand new, bam, that's the first order online I make, is that seat. So that worked for me. And then after that, you know, first I got to get my body right. I played around with handlebars and risers. What I ended up with is some risers and CR Woods high bend, and that fits me. You know, they have the Woods bend has a little more sweep. It's a little more comfortable on my wrist, and that's, you know, again, that's going to be something that's very subjective to each person. You might be fine with the factory bars, but I like these. It fits. So then, bam, I'm comfortable. I can start riding. What do I want to do next? Well, I live in Montana. Everywhere you go is a long ways away. So I wanted some wind protection. I tried a couple of different things with where you bolt them on the handlebars and they got the little things that stick up and all that. They work, but I didn't like the looks and the clutteriness of all that stuff sticking up there. Then I found screens for bikes. I bought this out of Australia, and I don't know if you still get the same thing, but I've seen some around that are like this. It works really well. It bolts right to your fairing. It's a clean look and all that. I put that on, and I was getting hit with wind right here. And so I ended up trimming the top of this down 1.5 inches or something. And that's easy to do. You put some masking tape across there, draw your line, take a saber saw, clean it up, and it looks nice. It looks factory. So I did that, and then another thing I did after that, as I was experimenting with this, was I put little spacers in here, if you can see that, and that lets a little bit of wind go up under the screen, and so you don't have a vacuum bubble there that's trying to suck air back into itself and creating turbulence. That lets a little bit of air through, then it flows up over here. My chest is in clean air, or my chest is not getting hit. My head's up in clean air, and that works out really good. So there we go. Now I'm comfortable. I can ride farther. Then what? Well, I want to take all my stuff with me and go camping and do all that. stuff. So I have fiddled around with different iterations of luggage, and I've got the Wolfman racks on here. I don't know if Wolfman sells those anymore, but ProCycle has the same basic setup, and they work real well. I throw the Wolfman Expedition saddlebags on there, those roll top jobs, and they'll hold a lot. That with a duffel bag strapped on there, and you're good. So I did that, and then for my daily going to town rig stuff, I have these Seahorse 701, I think is the number of them, the small Seahorse cases, and they work real good for just going to the store. And they're not real big, but you know, you pop them open and they'll hold a box of your 12 favorite buddies. Perfect right there. So I got those. Okay, now I can do all this different stuff. What's next? More power. Yeah. What I did for that was typical stuff. You know, I put a twin air filter in it. I drilled holes in the top of the air box to get more air in there. And then I did a dyno jet kit in the carburetor. Dyno jet, it works really well. You don't have to use that. The biggest thing with the dyno jet kit is you have a needle with a different taper to it. And so you can tune your power range a lot more when you know you got your different clips and you can set the needle where you want it. That works really well. The dyno jet setup, you got to get to understand your carburetor. The suggested jetting that they send you is going to be so rich, it's going to be richer than Elon, and it's not going to even run. So you're going to have to fiddle with that, but when you get it set, I have great power. I get 50 miles a gallon. It works good. So I did that. Then, how about some exhaust? Now, luckily back in that day, this was 2008, 9, whenever, you could buy these Suzuki GSXR mufflers for cheap, $100 on eBay. And this is the X040X muffler. And I had a couple of them. I ended up selling the extra one to somebody for $100 again. And that with the, you need to buy a mid pipe for that, and which I did from Keentech back then. And I love that muffler. I think there's some other types like this you can get now. It's quiet. Well, it's not as quiet as stock. It's got a deep, nice sound to it, but it's not real loud like a regular slip-on glass pack job. It has a great sound to it. It doesn't burn out. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to do nothing. So that's good. And also, I took the header pipe off, and where the flange is welded onto it, where it bolts into the head, there's a big sloppy weld in there. I ground that out, which is one of those things you're supposed to do. It helps a little bit of flow. It might have helped. I don't know. But I did it. So I can say, yeah, I ground my header weld down. So I got that. Now, I got my power. I got my luggage. Well, you're going to want a bigger tank if you live in the kind of area I do. You know, I can go 220 or 40 miles or something like that on these 5 gallons. And that's pretty handy when you're out by Fort Peck Reservoir, way out there in the Missouri Breaks. You want gas. You don't want to worry about that. So I took care of that. You know, some cheap bark busters that I just had sitting around. And so next, a big thing was, during all those things, one of the things I did was I took the front springs, I replaced them with Ibach springs, progressive rate springs. That made a lot of difference because these are so softly sprung. You know, you can grab the front brake and shove on it and just bottom the damn thing out. So those springs helped a lot. And then again, over time, I'm looking at more things I can do to this. The Cogent DDC drop-in cartridge things that go right down here in your forks. I bought those. Totally transformed the bike. Complete different bike with those. That would be on my list of to do right now things if I started this all over again. Of course, I want my seat, my bars, my wind protection, and my power, but I would not have one of these without doing that. Let's put it that way. That made a gigantic difference. It's not KTM, but it's really, really good Suzuki, you know. And then after that, I ended up with a Cogent shock in the back because I had to. Again, a huge transformation. You know, they'll set that shock up for how much you weigh, what kind of riding you do, and all that. It was not cheap, but not terrible. It's like $700, and huge difference. This thing is a pleasure to ride now on the roads and the bumps and anything. It is a great bike to ride. That is important. So now you've done seat, luggage, power, suspension, handlebars, all that stuff. Other little things that I've done over the time have been, you know, I put a Yamaha YFC 450 front fender on it. It was like $30. It looks way better than the regular one. I did some lights. I bought one of those better LED whatever, home and garden TV, whatever, bulbs. It was better, but not great. And but I got these LED jobs, and they light up the night sky. So those are handy. That's a must do at some point if you have one of these things. So lights, fender. I put the bigger front rotor on here, the Warp 9, 290 millimeter rotor, whatever that is. And you know, braking's real good. Other things, you know, you can walk around here, and I could talk forever, you know. LED turn signals, the smaller taillight from a DR650 or whatever that is. And, oh, here's another thing that worked really good for me again. I'd heard about the lowered pegs and that people really like them. I thought, well, I don't know. A buddy of mine with a DR came over, and he had these lowered pegs on it, and I sat on it, and I was like, oh my God, yes. My knees are gonna love this. So I bought those from Pro Cycle, and you know, they bolt right on there, nice pegs. And they're, I don't know, $150 or something. And now this bike really fits me. It really fits me well. I can get on here and ride all I want, and I won't get wore out from being on the bike. And that's a good thing. So on from there, you know, you'll have other things you do. You know, you put yourself a little power cord here to charge it or charge your phone, and this, that, and the other thing. But those are the main things. So now, how much did all this cost? You know, I bought the bike for $3,200 or $3,300 or whatever it was. And over all these years, adding up all the big stuff, I got a file on all this. The major stuff, not counting all little teeny dicky do things you buy, but I got about $3,500 in everything that has been upgraded on this bike. So, you know, it's not bad. I've got, let's say I have $7 grand total into this bike. Well, just to buy hell, you spend that on a brand new one right now. And, you know, I could go buy a Tenere 700 and have way more than that into it before I even start to add things. Oh yeah, tank bag. You got to have your Wolfman tank bag, and your ram mount. You know, see, it just keeps adding up. But it's not bad. You end up with not a ton of money sunk into one of these things, so you can ride it around and not feel guilty. You know, I mean, my Harley buddies, they say, how much you got into that bike? And I tell them, and they got that much into their clothes, you know, that they ride with. So it's a bike you grow with, you learn with, you know, it just gets better and better over time. You keep improving it. And I've got 33,000 miles on this thing. It runs perfectly. I don't have to worry about it. I can fix it with the toolkit and a rock and a stick anywhere I'm at. It is just a great bike. It's comfortable. It does everything you want. It's the 4-inch 357 Magnum revolver of bikes. It will do everything that you need done. And that's why you have one, or that's why you want one. So anyway, thanks for stopping by the compound, seeing what I had to say today, and happy riding, guys.